I'll just get this writing out and I'll leave the key to security. Okay. You gotta be kidding me.
So, bam, I have to do all of this.
Can you please turn the music down? Please, I don't mean to say that. I don't care for it. Please turn it down.
Hi, Dad.
My daughter bought me this once. And I shared it.
I was only 8.
She told me one every birthday after that. Makes her mum laugh.
Why?
Because I was hating nuts. But don't tell her. Makes her so happy.
Who does? Cadbury. There's a glass and a half in everyone.
This one is not complete. What happened?
So I told you to disturb me. Since yesterday I did mechanic. Yesterday sir, I didn't even go work.
And then,
So,
you don't need 3 weeks to give you that thing. Every day I told you, they tell me. The last time in a neck, now in a leg, and then. The last person will drive that keke. No complain like this, so you no complain, they give me my money complete. And this thing I'm going to see with you every day. Nothing they worry you now. Why is that? And when you see this topic, just go first. I go call you. Baby, sorry, not this.
What's the problem?
Mommy, did you look at this boy, you? Can you imagine? Keke one give him every time I complain up and down. He go say na leg today, go say na wait tomorrow. Now na leg. If they bring me small money, they come. All the keke one get for road. About 7 to 6 of them, you know about it. You know the phone, they always complain every time.
It's okay. The dad is not making management because there's no competition. Don't start kind of holding someone again. Okay. So, but you have to wait for that soup to cool before you cover it.
Okay.
And I also make curry for you. They're all inside the party.
Let's go inside and eat.
I know you can't go inside to eat. I've already overstayed. I have to go back home. I told you my father is not feeling well, so I can attend to him.
Wait.
No, sorry guys, I don't speak espagnol, I speak italiano. Tu parli italiano? Ciao, come stai? Tutto bene? I don't speak Spanish. Italian is similar to Spanish though.
Once.
But what the heck?
Okay, I've kissed you once, I remember. But wait, is it that you don't love me?
Wait, how can you even be saying this? I come to this place twice a week. I cook, I clean, I wash your clothes. And okay, look at today now. My father is not feeling well. I still have to make up time to come and cook and make sure you're fine. And you're saying this. I've told you, if you want me to move into your house, just come see my father, pay my bride price, and I'll come and stay with you. And regarding kissing and all of that, I already told you I cannot sleep with a man that is not my husband.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to say it again.
But why can you say it again?
Don't worry. When that's my boy, one of my boy will collect my ticket. Once you don't pay higher purchase finish, I will carry the money, even join the one while I save to buy another one. I will carry them like this, come to
Whoa.
The dry skin girlies have spoken. Meet Curel's intensive moisture care range. First, the foaming facial wash gently cleanses without stripping hydration. Next up is the intensive moisture facial cream. Repairs and strengthens the skin barrier for all-day hydration. Finally, deep moisture spray. An ultra-fine ceramide infused mist for an instant boost of hydration. Discover Curel and fall in love with your skin again.
Say you get a surf shack on Airbnb. Now you can also get a surf lesson with a pro surfer. Or if you get a place in Mexico City, you can also get a taco tasting with a food critic. Homes, experiences and services. Now you can never be more than an Airbnb.
We're Stacey and Sean, and we live in a school. A literal 9,000 square foot century-old schoolhouse surrounded by Indiana cornfields. 4 years ago, I opened an email from a realtor. The subject line was, "Don't judge me," and attached was a listing for a crumbling brick school with a failing roof, broken windows, beds in the attic, and a whole lot of reasons to run away. But my first thought was, we have to buy this. We had no construction experience, no real plan, a newborn baby, and we lived in New York City, so naturally, we bought it. This video is a time-lapse of what happened next. 4 years of learning how to turn a dilapidated former public building into our family home. We knew it would be hard. We didn't know how hard. But we also knew this might be a once-in-a-lifetime chance to build something entirely our own in a unique building with a colorful and fascinating history. By the end of this video, you can decide for yourself. Did this massive, financially questionable idea work out, or did we get completely schooled? For those of you who've been following along our story for a while, I've been pulling some late nights editing this video to include a lot more storytelling and explanation, more of the why behind our decisions, and the people who've helped us get here. Plus a few never before seen moments along the way. We're kind of winging it. That's where you figure it out as you go. Back in 2021, when we made the biggest decision of our lives, we were two Midwest kids living and working in New York City. The school we bought was just minutes from both of our parents in a small hometown we'd spent years away from. It was mid-pandemic, and we were deep in that late-night spiral of what are we even doing with our lives? And when the schoolhouse came up for sale, somehow it didn't feel insane compared to everything we just lived through. It felt like, hey, let's go home. That summer, the company I worked for a decade went public. I joined as third employee, and the early stock options gave us just enough money to buy the school for $175,000 and begin planning and prepping for the major repairs we needed to do. I still remember our first walkthrough after buying it, driving up the road, watching the building rise out of the cornfields like a little Midwestern castle. We were so excited, and also wildly naive. We had no idea what we just signed up for.
So I'm gonna need ginger. So, yes.
Yeah. Oh, whoa. Okay. As we started wrapping our heads around everything it would take to turn this place into a home, we also dove into the school's history and the lives it held before us. Our school, Union Joint Grade School No. 9, has stood proud and slightly lonely in the middle of Indiana crop fields for over a century. It opened in 1914 to serve rural students from the edges of two townships, mostly farm kids just leaving behind one-room schoolhouses. But by 1936, just 22 years later, the doors closed. The world was changing. School systems were consolidating, and small rural buildings like this one were being left behind. It also probably didn't help that even with 100 students, there were 0 indoor toilets. After our school closed, a farmer bought the school and used it for livestock and apple storage. Then, in the 1950s, a former student bought it and converted it into her home, raising her family here and keeping the building alive for nearly 70 years, as other buildings like it across the country got torn down. By the time we found it, it was in rough shape, but still standing, and somehow waiting for its next chapter. So we got going. I'm enjoying being in my videos, so a lot of what I filmed from him in the beginning was a bit sneaky, but he'll make some brief appearances teaching us stuff throughout the video. Over the last 4 years, he's taught us how to find contractors, manage contractors, feed the contractors, clean up the mess, and deal with the quirks of restoring 100-year-old buildings. So step one was cleanup. We needed to see what we were working with, so while Sean and I were still living on the East Coast with our jobs and Sean's medical residency, Robert and his crew from Tree Buddies stepped in. 7 dumpsters later, we had saved every original feature we could, doors and trim and rusted grates. Nothing fancy, but priceless to us. And as you'll see later, I can't resist salvaged wood, beat up old metal, especially when it's original to the school. With no bubble grease and some questionable levels of obsession on my part, these pieces will make a comeback later in the video. We also found a lot of original things like ceilings and the plaster with the historic colors still visible. This got me really excited, and they're going to come back a bit later too. And that was just the inside. The schoolyard needed a lot of cleanup too. The winter after we bought the school, we tackled the first phase of the yard transformation. With the help of Shad, our dads, ourselves, and the real MVP, my dad's tractor, the yard at least looked like it might start to make a turn for the better. But back inside, we needed to tackle the most urgent, dangerous, and problematic problem of all, the roof. Essentially, harsh weather and foot guitar repairs had destroyed some of the roof joists. When we bought the school, there were major leaks, one of which had a pool several feet deep on the
Hey,
roof.
you guys say keep
Not my
refrigerator.
first choice on a pool
Are we
location,
sure about
but
this?
I
Yeah,
learned
because
that
I'm
when
going
you
to
take
use
on
all
a
of it at
first
this
building
point.
like this,
It's
you
not
don't
looking
get your
fresh
first choice
anymore.
in much of anything. And after
This
so
is
many
not
pandemic
looking
supply chain
fresh.
delays, 6 stressful months after buying the school, we finally got a new roof. I slept a little easier knowing water wasn't pouring in from above, though the list of things keeping us up at night was still pretty long. To distract ourselves from the scary and expensive stuff, we made schoolhouse gear. Over the years, we've designed everything from crests to notepads to library stamps to, my favorite of all, Royal Tenenbaums inspired matching sweatsuits. Someday our kids will definitely look back and roll their eyes, but hey, when you plan on school, there's no such thing as too much school spirit, right? Spring 2022 was all about drainage. With the help of Smart Crawl, we dug a trench around the entire building and installed pipes to pull water away from the foundation and keep it out of the basement. also helped us remove the crumbling, unoriginal front steps made out of geodes. We saved all the geodes we could, and I'll show more of our plans for an updated front porch a bit later in the video that takes it back to what the entrance looked like back in 1914. The rest of 2022 was planning season. We ordered windows, wrestled with floor plans, obsessed over the kitchen, and did a lot of brain work in Google Slides. It sounded fun at first, but it was surprisingly stressful. Every decision we were working on felt permanent, as we do plan on living in this place until we croak. Thankfully, my friend Danny helped us brainstorm layouts in the garage, and he even hit our dog Pin Pup all over his SketchUp renderings, which still makes me laugh. Once our brainstorms were in place, we brought in Emily from Shot Design in Indianapolis. She turned our daydreams into actual architectural plans that we could take to folks with a real construction building skills. Meanwhile, we moved from New York City to Philadelphia for Sean's last year of surgical training, and little Margot was born in October 2022. We were carrying a full course load, so to say, with 2 kids and jobs and so much to do, but Schoolhouse it just kept on assigning homework. In December, we teamed up with Colin and George from Robert Young Construction. They reinforced the floors with big LVL beams because our future kitchen island and appliances and the walls, they're going to weigh a bit more than the 100 kid desks that the floors were designed for. After that, the framing began and our plans started to finally take shape. In January 2023, we brought in someone who would become a main character in the schoolhouse renovation, Brad the Mason. Brad and his partner E had an enormous job of repointing the entire building, grinding out old mortar and replacing it. This keeps water out, helps the brick last another 100 years, and generally keeps the school from achieving its perpetual goal of returning itself to the earth. Brad started by cutting holes for new windows and breaking over old spots where we didn't need them. And just generally, Brad was a brick-whispering human bulldozer in workers.
So this Saturday, guys, an interview is coming up on the channel.
In March 2023,
It's an interview with Mr. Alfred, a former footballer. So if you're into football, yay! It's your time to tune in on Saturday. Come and watch the interview.
August 2025. We still aren't finished installing the windows. Can't give you the full play-by-play just yet with lawyers and all that. But back in March 2023, before the headaches, the lawsuits, the leaks, the multiple reinstallations, the existential dread, before that, it was really exciting to think about what they were going to look like in the schoolhouse. Later in that spring, I finished 2 custom floor mosaics for the schoolhouse entrances. The idea lodged itself in my brain back when we were living in Philly, and it quickly turned into an obsession. And honestly, it's a lot easier than it looks, and I've got a whole other video explaining the process if you're into those zone out and plug along puzzle projects that are so satisfying. Then, summer of 2023 rolled around and we moved back home to Indiana. Not into the schoolhouse, of course, but into our parents' houses with 2 toddlers. We clearly have incredible parents, and our plan was to crash for a couple months while we finished. But the schoolhouse, as it tends to do, had other plans. We stayed for way over a year living out of our childhood bedrooms. While living out of suitcases with a couple of hobgoblins, I found weird ways to stay sane. One of which was by stripping and refinishing every schoolhouse door felt like in existence. We still had all the original doors from our school, but because we added bathrooms and kid rooms and closets, we needed more doors. I sourced a few from the Little Flowers Catholic School in Indianapolis, a few off Facebook Marketplace from the school in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, and that summer I stripped, sanded, repaired, and re-lacquered 23 of them. All after the kids went to bed or during nap time.
fabric conditioner sheet. Just toss one conditioner sheet into your laundry for noticeably soft fabric and long-lasting fresh fragrance. Try them now.
Meet Dolmio ready meals. Really yummy, really fast.
I just got fixated on somebody. When I say somebody, I mean you. This obsession's much more than a hobby, and I can't help myself. I got a one-track mind, and it's on you, it's on you, and it's on you. I got a one-track mind, and it's on you.
Fall 2023, the windows were still being installed for the first time, and Brad Mason kept grinding away at the repointing. But then came the plumbing and the electric. My son Arlo, like most small humans, is deeply into excavators and bulldozers, and to this day he still talks about the time he got to ride in one with one of the guys from Patent Plumbing. On the electrical side, we had new main characters enter the schoolhouse saga, the guys from Breeden Electric. They spent the fall installing over a mile of wire in the school, and at one point found a 72-inch snakeskin above one of the walls. 2 years later, I hope Neil has recovered from that surprise, but personally, after the mouse problems that we're having in the basement, I kind of welcome a friend, the little school snake, patrolling the halls. And then in November 2023, Adam and his crew from Arrow Earth rolled in. They tore out all the old asphalt in front of and around the building and started building us a driveway. Looking back at all these clips, I just chuckle at how thrilled we were by each step. Things that felt so monumental at the time that are now just like part of the landscape. And it's a good reminder not to take any of this for granted. December 2023 brought another unexpected detour, making the creepy basement slightly less creepy. We hadn't planned on it, but after spending more time down there with the crumbly, dust-producing floor, we decided to pour a fresh layer of concrete. The goal was to make it feel like we're not walking on the set of a post-apocalyptic movie every time we went downstairs. We could definitely see that the school's era as a barn had made its impact on the basement floor. Kenny and Chance from Specialty Concrete and a crew that included a few local guys whose ancestors actually went to our school handled the job. This was one of those stop and think moments, realizing how many lives have passed through this building. Upstairs, there were big changes too. Insulation. It is one of those oddly satisfying jobs to watch in time-lapse form, although I do still have speckles of spray foam on one of my cameras as a permanent souvenir. The next thing we tackled was a little unplanned, but it's now one of my favorite features in the whole schoolhouse. The building itself is one giant brick box, and some of the walls still have plaster. The problem, a lot of the plaster was hard, clumsy, and generally a big pain in the face. But behind it was this brick. One of the neurotic things that keeps me up at night is the constant worry, am I making the right choices for this old building? Are we doing right by the old girl? And historically, sure, this brick would have been covered in plaster. But the brick was just too interesting to hide. So, we asked Brad the Mason to take the plaster off. that plaster had left behind a dull, chalky haze. We tried scrubbing, water, vinegar, no luck. Brad's solution? Grind every single brick with an angle grinder and a cup brush. Completely nuts, but as I mentioned before, Brad is a machine, and it worked. After that, the brick was looking much better, but then it was my turn to figure out how to seal the brick, something that would bring out all those rich colors while also keeping the walls from constantly shedding brick dust, which is one of the big downsides of exposed brick. That research took me a while, so we'll come back to that later. Meanwhile, Derek, Phil, Brandon, and Ricky working nights and weekends to get all of our HVAC installed and running, building big old octopuses of new ductwork all over the schoolhouse. Then came the really big transformation, and the transformations, they started happening fast. Colin and George, who worked with us the year before, came back to manage all the drywall installation. This was the moment when I walked into the schoolhouse, and for the first time, it actually felt like a house. The echoes were gone, the rooms were taking shape, and instead of imagining our life here, I could start to see it. In February 2024, Adam's crew from Arrow Earth rolled back in with their excavators and skid steers and broke ground for the garage foundation, the next big outdoor phase. What do you see right here, Arlo? Holes? Yeah? What do you see over here? A what? Yeah. A new schoolhouse character appeared, Greg the Tile Guy. He started by repairing one of the few plaster walls that we saved in the soon-to-be green bathroom. We thought we'd paint it, but after Greg was done, it looked like a little Midwestern fresco, so we kept it. And after seeing what it looks like in the finished bathroom, I'm so glad we did. So hold tight for that reveal. Got a little bit more work to do in here. Greg also started tiling around the schoolhouse, and his quiet, meticulous approach made me realize that Greg is such an artist of his trade. Upstairs, I was finally tackling my brick ceiling saga. After watching a ton of videos, asking questions in Old House Facebook groups, calling some masonry-specific companies, and then testing about a dozen products, I landed on a two-step process. First, a breathable consolidant to lock in the mortar, and then aqua mix to make the bricks' colors really glow. Call me Goldilocks, but for brick. Meanwhile, Brad the Maze was still here, now in the basement. With his sidekick Hez, they were repointing the engine room, an unassuming little space that we were scheming into a cocktail cellar. Brad took out all the old ductwork, a truly terrifying task, as this is what the room looked like when we bought it, and he also raised the steel beam that was in here so that it was actually usable as a room, and then repointed the whole thing. Transformation down here was truly wild, but it would be a few more months before we'd start adding cabinets and actual cocktail supplies in this cocktail cellar. After that, it was back to doors and trim. Our friend Chad started hanging the doors that I'd refinished the summer before, which was deeply satisfying to see them back in place. Then came the baseboards. I'd love to say that we restored them out of pure preservationist passion, but there's nothing like the sticker shock of finding out the price of an 8-inch, 16-foot baseboard, making you suddenly very motivated to scrape nails and patch holes. All the trim that was off the wall, we switched to repairing the trim that was still on the schoolhouse wall, filling plaster holes, patching those gaps. That spring into summer, our routine was dinner with our parents, kids to bed, then over to the schoolhouse for a few hours of work. Back home, shower, sleep, repeat. It was definitely in these tasks where we were like, are we ever going to get to live here? It was the real renovation doldrums. And it also didn't help that
Oh my days! I actually forgot something. Oh my gosh.
Contractors with big delays. But somehow, we survived. One of the coolest original features in the schoolhouse was this front vestibule of windows where the kids would enter the school each day. We did a lot of scraping and repairs on this section, and even learned how to fix broken glass and re-glaze old wooden windows. It was super satisfying to finally feel like we were leveling up in our old house repair skills, though it's projects like this that deepen my appreciation for folks with professional caulking and glazing skills. Also happening during all this, the floors. Dave and Micah from Guardian Flooring are the kind of pros you hope
I'm
for,
juicing. Can you guys actually, does it show on the title though that I'm juicing? Can someone tell me if you can see from the title that I said I'm juicing?
The floor get covered up with new clean boards. It was something remarkable.
For over 100 years, Hotpoint has been trusted to keep family life running smoothly. Preserving food with care, keeping fruit and veg fresh with antioxidants locked in for up to 7 days with Hotpoint's Vital Care technology. And preparing food with
I'm not Polish either though, so I don't know what you're talking about. And why you coming here with so much like, let's be respectful and calm, ladies and gentlemen, because I never said I was Polish, so where is all of this coming from? And with all respect to everyone in the world, I don't know why the aggressiveness from this as well.
Look at his happy little face.
Really daunting at first, but once we got organized and took it piece by piece, it actually became satisfying. Like a huge puzzle. And also, we didn't kill each other in the process. Sean handled all the cabinet hanging by himself, which was no small feat. We were nervous about drilling into the brick, but between Tapcons and the IKEA hanging rail, these cabinets aren't going anywhere.
So I'm just gonna pour some of this juice in here and then bring the other one as well. So let's do this. Oh no! What? Oh gosh. What's going on today? It's literally pouring, which is crazy. Well, that's a bit of my juice out.
Meanwhile, I took Arlo to S&F Marble and Granite here in Indianapolis to pick out our countertops. I love that shop. So many stone places that I went to just show you rows and rows of white and gray slabs. Gasol and Fernando's business has been in the same spot for 30 years, and their warehouse is full of the most gorgeous, surprising remnants. I actually changed the design for a whole bathroom because of this broken piece of translucent onyx that they said they could repair. The stones here, they're just that wild. Working with Saul and Fernando and Adolfo and Jason, it was such a joy. They're funny and they're generous and they really go the extra mile for their customers. By the time they came to install the countertops in the kitchen we had built with our own hands, it was the first time I stood in there and thought, okay, this is our real kitchen. We did it. And after a decade of tiny New York City kitchens, that it sure was something. Moving on to paint colors. But By this point, the decision fatigue was deepening, but this one was exciting. We get to team up with Up Paint, a company that rescues unused paint from all over the country and gives it a second life. Instead of tossing the paint into a landfill, Up Paint purifies it, remixes it, and turns it into premium paints. Now, picking the colors for the entire schoolhouse at once, it was a I've gotten pretty handy with both the paint and the lacquer sprayers. We also decided to stain and lacquer a doorway that was already hung between our bedroom and the office, but there was one part of the door that was white. So instead of getting creative with paint, I decided to gold leaf it, which was pretty fun, but also gold leaf gets everywhere, so consider yourself warned. It was at this point that we realized we needed more doors because we forgot to calculate in the kid closet doors. Luckily, I found a guy named Kyle a couple towns away who has the most incredible stash of antique doors and municipal lighting over in Monrovia, Indiana. From Kyle, I picked up 3 old bathroom doors that used to be in an old office building in Detroit, and they were perfect and weird. My specialty.
It's pretty old.
It's pretty old? Yeah. Do you want to go in your closet and check it out? There's tape in there? You don't want tape in your closet? What do you think of the paint? What do you think of the walls? What do you think of the walls? Outside, there was just as much action. The garage was coming together, rising from the ground almost like a little barn raising. And this is one of the rare projects where we weren't acting as the general contractor, and I was very grateful to have Jerry's advice along the way. New construction is definitely a different beast compared to restoration work with so many pieces to orchestrate together. The foundation and footers had already gone in back in February, but now it was time to pour the walls. Don and Gabby's crew from Masonry by Muller showed up and things really started to go. Back inside, it was time. Greg, the tile guy, was finally installing the mosaics that I'd made over 2 years before. To finally see them place after all that waiting, it definitely felt like taking time to
Amazon brings the UEFA Champions League. Tuesday's unmissable match is on Prime.
Is your black fading away? Back to black with Dylon in only 10 washes with 30 days of freshness. New? No. Washed with Dylon.
Dolmio Intensified. Pasta sauces with serious flavour. Dolmio, yeah.
Samsung is AI amazing. A new way to enjoy your home. From phones to TVs, from laptops to fridges, all at Currys. And now boosted by incredible AI features. And if it helps, you can spread the cost. Buy now, settle in full up to 12 months later, and pay no interest at all. In store and online at Currys.